Welcome to TheGaGG.com. I'm Luke Stevens, your head gun and gear guy. Now this video today is not a review of a single product. We've actually are writing an article online that'll have more details, but we wanted to do a companion video that talks about our review of under $500 1 to X scopes. Now originally started as a review of 1 to 6 power scopes that were under $500. But shortly after we started the review, we bought a scope that was 1.25 by 4, and it dropped right below $500, and we thought it was an important one to add into this review. So let's get started. We're not going to get into the good and the bad and the ugly on each of these scopes today. I'm just going to give you kind of an overall comparison and sense of what I found, as well as some of the testing that we did on these. Now what we have here today, we have the Osprey Global 1 to 6 scope. It has an illuminated reticle. It comes in with the scope caps. Of the three, it actually had more of the kind of tactical scope adjustment knobs than the other three did. And it does not come in this nice OD green color. I actually cryolinized this, spray painted it, for those of you who don't know what that is, as part of an OD green build that I was doing, so just kind of ignore that. It is the black. This scope you can find at a lot of gun shows. They have a lot of dealers selling these, and they were in the low 200s, like right around 220 if I remember correctly. Next we have the primary arms 1 to 6 ACSS. Now again, a 1 to 6 scope. If you'll notice, the adjustment turrets here are very low profile. You actually have to look at the top to see what you're changing there and how much you've changed it, unlike the Global Osprey. It has an illuminated reticle. The reticle that it has inside of it is actually a circle dot with a post for doing your offsets. It does, in addition to that, have to the side, to the right-hand side, it has the measurement for helping you find your relative distance that you're shooting by, a little kind of reverse L-shape post that you can take well-known objects, put them in there, and it kind of gives you a relative distance that you're looking at. Then next, we have the Vortex Strike Eagle 1 to 6 scope. Now, it did not come with this adjustment. I actually added that on. It is again an illuminated reticle. It has scope turrets very similar to the primary arms ACSS that are low profile. You actually have to look at them from the top to see what's going on with them. And then the reticle inside of this has almost like a semi-duplex reticle around the edges that stops shortly inside, and then it has the circle and the dot in the middle. Again, an illuminated reticle just like the others. And then finally, we have the Leupold VX3 1.25 to 4. Now this was the 4-power scope that I talked about we added to the mix. This has a full duplex reticle, which has the traditional duplex reticle that Leupold has with a fire dot in the center. Again, it's illuminated. Again, very low profile adjustment turrets with this. Although this one sits up, you do still have to look at the top to make the adjustments. So, what did I find in kind of using all 4 of these, putting them on gun builds, trying them out, keeping them around, using them under different circumstances? I found some interesting things. Across the range, we have low 200s to almost 500s when you look across the table here in the order of cost. Again, this was about $220. This one was almost $3. It was a little under. This one, when I originally came out, it's now dropped in price, was right above $3. I think you get it with a scope mount for $389 now, the Burris Peeper scope mount. And then you have the Leupold VX3 it was originally right above 500. It's now dropped a little bit below 400. So this is your range of price increasing this way. I actually took these out early one morning before it got light. About 25 yards out, I put a piece of paper on a shed I had It had medium-sized lettering on it, had big lettering, and had a bullseye on it. It was actually a Target, interesting enough, but it had Target with some words on it. It was advertising as well. I took them out. I watched every 5 minutes. I continuously looked at all 4 scopes at that target, and I did find a few interesting differences. All 4 of them pretty much were able to make out the bullseye in what I would call a shooting scenario roughly at the same time. So all 4 of them, I could have been on target of a bullseye and hitting, you know, roughly the center at roughly the same time of the morning. Now that said, I did find, and again moving backwards this way from the highest price to the lowest price, the order where I could read the lettering on there was the Leupold, the Vortex, the primary arms, and then the Osprey Global. Now there was about the difference between, these 2 were roughly the same. There was a difference here and there was a difference here if you look at these as a group. It was only about 3 to 4 minutes in the timing difference between when the Leupold and the primary arms and the Strike Eagle could see. They could make out the lettering, but I couldn't read it necessarily with these 2 while I could read it with this one. And then there was a couple of minutes delay in that. So from one end to the other in terms of early morning time, low light conditions, you're talking maybe 5 minutes of difference there. Could be a critical time period with hunting or a tactical situation or even self-defense, but I think in general all of them could have made a shot at roughly the same time given a bullseye sized target that I talked about earlier. I did find that even though they were designed for shooting out at some distance, I mean the 1 to 6 scopes, you should have a good solid 3, maybe even 400 yard, you know, with that 1 to 6 reticle, that only the Global Osprey, which was the cheapest, actually had turrets on it that were designed, you know, to allow you to actually dynamically adjust your sighting. The other kind of assumed you were going to use their integral system, or in the case of the 1 to 4, I guess you were just going to swag it for a large part, know what your kind of offsets were. This one has no markings, it just has the duplex with the fire dot. Another thing that I found, the reticle of the Global Osprey and the primary arms were a little bit busy. They had more stuff in there, and for me, when I'm trying to make shots, I want the center of my shooting area to be clean. I want it to be crisp. The Strike Eagle, while it didn't have as much busyness inside the overall reticle, because it has a pretty, especially when the illumination's turned on, pretty good size thickness of the circle with the dot, it can at some intermediate distances kind of consume what you're trying to target at. So you got to turn that illumination down and be aware of that. Plus the reticle in general is a little bit thicker than the other reticles on those as well. Overall, I was impressed for under $500 scopes with all 4 of these scopes. You know, any of these, I feel like you could take them out, you could hunt with them, you could have, you know, a good time with them, you could do them for other utilitarian purposes. Now, the one thing that I haven't done with these scopes to really work them up is to put them on a gun and box them and make sure that they're tracking properly. That piece I've not done. Hopefully in the future I will do it, and we'll come back to you and tell you what our results are. These are good scopes, good opportunities, and basically across the range here, you've got some good choices. I'm Luke Stevens, and this is TheGaGG.com.